Happy Sunday. How's everyone doing? I'm gonna go ahead and share this live. How's your weekend been so far? How's your weekend been so far? I'm cold, so I got my blanket with me. Hey, Kiara. Thank you for coming, Chichi. Are you still in Texas? How's your visit been going? Chichi, can you hear me okay? Okay, awesome, good. Aw, yay. I know it's bittersweet when you have to leave. Aw. Well, thank you for coming, because you didn't have to. I know you're on vacation, so I appreciate it. Hey, Elizabeth, how are you? How's your weekend been going, Elizabeth? It's good to see you. I know I was gone for a couple weeks, but I was doing my workshop, so it was going to be difficult for me to go live and then also like pour into the workshop. But it went really well, and it's actually what inspired me for this month's topic. So this month, every week is going to be all about self-reflection and gratitude. So I'm really excited about that. Hey, Shubham, how are you? I got people on YouTube as well, so if you guys see me looking at both screen, I have TikTok and YouTube open right now. You have a lot going on right now, Elizabeth? I hope it's all good. Shubham, I'm in the US. Hi, Pankaj. Okay. So today is going to be all about the power of reflection. So have you ever been so focused on what's coming next that you forgot to notice how much you've already grown, right? So sometimes we live in this world where we're so obsessed and we're so like in a rush to go to the next step, the next milestone, the next version of success, right? Like what's coming next? What can we do next? But when we move really fast, sometimes we start to lose sight of how far we've already come, right? So sometimes reflection isn't about getting stuck in the past. It's how can we make sense of everything, right? It's what turns those like mistakes that we've made, those setbacks that we've experienced into lessons and those goals into growth, right? Elizabeth said, oh yes, I used to be like that. Yeah, same. Honestly, I have to catch myself sometimes, even today. Shubham said, you look like Indian. Oh, yeah. One of my friends she's Indian, and she tells me that I could pass for her family. But India has beautiful people, so thank you. Okay. So I want you to drop, let's say, a yellow heart if you've ever downplayed your own progress or your own success. Thank you, Shubham. So drop a yellow heart if you've ever downplayed your own progress or your own success. Hey, Kayla, thank you for joining. Thank you, Shubham. Yep, same here. Elizabeth, I love that. It's so important that you give yourself that reminder. So thank you for sharing that, because that's such a great tool. So like always, I broke down this topic into 3 parts. So we're going to start with part 1, which is why reflection matters, right? So again, reflection isn't about just looking back, it's about reconnecting, right? It helps you slow down long enough to actually hear yourself again, right? So when you reflect, you can become aware, right? But if you don't give yourself that time or that space to reflect, then it's very difficult to see that, right? So when you reflect, you can become aware of who you were before expectations, pressure, or noise. You can become aware of what you've actually learned, not just what went right or what went wrong. And then when you reflect, you can also become aware of what you truly want next, right? So instead of you thinking, oh, you should want, it's what you truly want. Hey, Joey, thank you for coming. Thank you guys for joining the live. I appreciate it. And thank you for sharing the live, Joey. So today, just to give you a little recap, Joey, we're talking about self-reflection, right? And what is the power behind that? So I want to start off explaining why reflection matters so much, right? Why is it important? Thank you, Kara, for sharing the live. So most people aren't stuck because they don't have clarity, right? Most people are stuck because they've never paused long enough to recognize their own clarity. So sometimes we just need that pause, right? To be able to think back and say, oh, this is why this happened. Joey said, estamos todos aquí. KK, Kiara, Jomi G, baby. Or Gabi, not baby. You mommy. Aw, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. Love you guys. Sorry, my family's on TikTok, guys. Hey, Crystal. Thank you for coming in. Hi, Ansari. Thank you for coming. Oh, baby too. Nice. Thank you guys for joining. Today we're talking all about the power of reflection. And right now we're on part 1. And I'm explaining why reflection matters, right? So again, most people aren't stuck because they lack clarity. They're stuck because they never pause long enough to recognize their own clarity, right? So without reflection, we end up repeating the same cycles. So how many of you can say that somewhere in your life you continue to have a cycle, right? Something repetitive that maybe you just haven't fully learned yet, or maybe you fully haven't found the way to overcome it. We've all been there, whether it's habits that you want to break, whether it's fears that you want to overcome, whether it's making decisions, right? Because that's really difficult sometimes. And sometimes we end up doing things in autopilot because we're not reflecting, right? We're just going with, oh, whatever happens, whatever happens. But when you have reflection and when you really pause to have it, we tend to evolve through those cycles, right? Because now we can see the pattern instead of just feeling overwhelmed by it, right? So the part that is key is that reflection is not about judging yourself. It's about understanding yourself. So when you really start to dig deep and see like where is my pattern, right? What is my pattern? So I can try to evaluate it instead of judging myself and saying, oh, this is you, right? No, let's try to understand it. So then we can come up with a solution. So it tends to shift your mindset from I should be further by now, right? To wow, look how far I've actually come. So that mindset shifts can help you so much. So again, instead of doing, I should be further by now, no, you can change that into, wow, look how far I've actually come, right? Sometimes we underestimate the progress that we've made because we've never stopped to acknowledge it, right? So I want to know, I'm curious, what's one thing that you've learned about yourself this year that you said, wow, like I underestimated myself and I actually did the thing, right? So what's one thing that you learned about yourself this year? And feel free to share it in the comments. So what's one thing you've learned about yourself this year? So one thing I've learned about myself this year is, let's see what I want to pick. I feel like I've really leaned into my resilience, and trusting myself. I would say that's the biggest thing I've learned, um, about myself this year, that I can trust myself, trust my intuition, and trust that I know the next step that I need to have. Crystal on YouTube said that she's learned that she is very nice, that she's a nice person. I love that. And that you can help people. I love that. Elizabeth said, I had a pattern, so I would end my relationship before when things started to go bad instead of. Yeah, it's tough when it's relationships too. But again, Elizabeth, like you said, you found the pattern instead of finding a solution. And that's the biggest thing for us to recognize: what are the things that we're doing that can hold us back? And if I sit and reflect and I see my pattern, right? So before, the reason why I mentioned decisions and the reason why I mentioned trusting myself is because I would question my decisions and I would question my intuition all the time. And then I got to a point where I'm like, it hasn't steered me wrong yet, so just lean into it. Elizabeth said I was just running away. Yeah. But that's the power of reflecting. That's the power of you coming to that like answer within yourself. Because you're like, oh my God, like this is a pattern for me. Like I need to do something about this. And that's when you have that strength back. That's when you get that control back, right? Thank you for sharing that too, Elizabeth. That's great. Oh, Crystal, thank you for that. Those are the cutest little hearts. Thank you. I didn't know that people could do that on YouTube. That was super sweet. Thank you. So again, when we understand our past patterns, we gain the power to create new ones, right? Mama said, I have more clarity about what my future holds and I'm trusting my judgment more. I love that. Yes. Love that. That was my clap because I don't want to hurt your ears, okay? But yeah, again, if we understand those patterns, then we can have that power and that control back, and then we can create new patterns, right? New patterns that benefit us and new patterns that help us get to where we want to be. So, okay, part 2 is all about the growth lens. And again, reflection isn't just looking back, it's how do we look back, right? How do we do this? So we can either look at it from a guilty lens or we can look at it from a growth lens. So again, two people can reflect on the same experience and walk away with completely different stories depending on what lens they use, right? So for example, or actually before I go there, let's see. Crystal said, oh, my name is Alicia. Oh, okay. Thank you for sharing that. You're on your mom's phone? Nice. My sister does that all the time. Okay. So again, two people can reflect on the same experience, but walk away with completely different stories, right? Depending on how they look at that situation and what lens they use. So the goal this week is to view your past or your present through a growth lens, not a guilt lens. So I'm going to explain a little bit about each, and I'm going to give you some examples. So the guilt lens is looking at things from like you're pointing your finger type situation, right? So a guilt lens can sound like, I should have known better, right? So that is when you're looking at a situation through a guilt lens, you're trying to place blame somewhere, right? So an example again could be, I should have known better, I wasted my time, or I messed up, right? Now, when you look at that same experience and you look at that same story with a growth lens, and when I say growth lens, instead of guilty, right? When you're looking for blame, you're pointing for blame, whether it's for yourself or others. A growth lens is looking at, where is the lesson here, right? How can I grow from this? So an example could be, I learned what doesn't work for me. So instead of I should have known better, you can look at it as I learned what doesn't work for me. Instead of I wasted time, you can say I understand myself more now. Instead of saying I messed up, you can say I see what strengths I used without even realizing it. Right? So again, we have the guilt lens, which is like blame, blame, blame. I should have known better. I wasted time. I messed up. And then a growth lens where it's I learned what doesn't work for me. I understand myself more now, and I see what strengths I use before even realizing it. Right? So I want you to ask yourself intentional questions, right? Just so you could see like what scenarios are you going through, right? Are you looking at your experiences and situations through a guilt lens, or are you looking at them through a growth lens, right? So you can ask yourself, what did the season teach me? What strengths showed up even in my struggles? What parts of myself grew without me noticing, right? Because again, the whole point of this talk today is just to remind you to reflect and how important reflection can be for yourself. And not only for yourself, but even for your mental, right? And I don't want it to be about mental health or anything like that. I don't want it to be heavy. But it's so important when we really look at ourselves and we reflect. I feel like it makes you a little bit lighter. It gives you a little bit less heaviness when you think about things from a growth lens. Because we don't want to place blame. We're not perfect people, none of us. And I want you to think about it in a way of, how can I let these situations and these hard things help me grow instead of push me down and make it heavy, right? Sorry, I'm going to read a comment here from Alicia, I think you said your name was? Yeah, Alicia. You can be nice by helping others, and when you are at school, you can help others with math, and I learned that I can be nice by helping others. Yeah, that's very true. So you said you're in school? What grade are you in, Alicia? Thank you for reminding me, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And that's so true. When we help other people, it almost feeds us, right? It makes you feel good when you make others feel good. Oh my God, you're in 4th grade? Oh my God, my son is in 5th grade. That's so cute. Okay. Mama said, oh no, that's an old comment. Okay. Are you guys following me so far? Sorry, I have YouTube and TikTok, so I'm checking the comments on both sides. Okay. So again, ask yourself those intentional questions when you're going through things and when you're trying to see like, maybe I want to change the way that I'm looking at the situation, right? So again, what did the season teach me? What strengths showed up even in my struggles? And what parts of myself grew without me noticing? And remember, growth doesn't always show up as success, right? Sometimes growth is resilience, right? It's resilience when you kept going when you wanted to give up. It's patience when you're going through like a slow season, right? It's redirection when something didn't work out. And it's awareness when you realize something's no longer aligned with you. Alicia said, my sister's in 5th. Aww. Do you have a big family, Alicia? I know I do. I have so many brothers and sisters. We're all adults except my little sister who's in high school. Okay. So again, you're growing even in the moments that you don't feel like you're winning, you're still growing. And that's a big part of why I wanted to make this month all about reflection, all about gratitude. Of course, yes, we're coming up to, Thanksgiving and things like that. But I feel like before the end of the year, when the months start to get cold, when we lose, some sunlight, sometimes we have that like seasonal depression starting to come hit us, right? So I think it's really important to remind ourselves, like, we don't have to be hard on ourselves, right? Like, there's always something in our lives that's going fine. And there's always something you can look at yourself and say, I'm proud of you for that. I'm proud of your growth, right? You guys follow me so far? So I have a question. I'm curious to know what's a challenge that you've been through that taught you something valuable, even if it didn't go as planned. Alicia, I'm proud of you too. That's great. So, what's a challenge that taught you something valuable, even if it didn't go as planned? Well, I'm going to give an example of something recent that happened during my workshop. I actually had technical difficulties. My internet didn't want to work when I was about to start my workshop, so I had to like reset everything. And I got like a little flustered when it first started happening because this was my first workshop I had ever done. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe, like, I started going into that like guilt lens, right? Like, oh, I should have prepared. Like, I should have tested my internet before I started. Like, I should have known something like this would happen, right? But then I stopped myself and I said, you know what? Relax. It is not that deep. Like, text everyone, let them know what's going on. And then you start a little bit late and everything's going to be fine. And guess what? Everything was fine, right? So it's like I started going down that rabbit hole and I had to pull myself out. And I was like, no, we are not going to go there. We are not doing that. Mama said, failures are not really failures, but challenges to make you resilient and stronger. Exactly. Exactly. I love that. That's exactly it. And the whole point is for us to not beat ourselves up, because at the end of the day there's so much in this world, there's so much, busyness. We work, we have responsibilities, whether it's kids, whether it's bills, mortgage, whether it's relationships. We have all of these expectations and these titles and things that we've put on ourselves, right? Some of it is beautiful, some of it can be hard at times, some of it takes up a lot of, our energy. So it's okay. And I want to remind everyone that it's okay to have that small amount of time for yourself, even if it's once a week, where you just are able to kind of like disconnect, reflect, and have that like one-on-one time with yourself. Oh, thank you, Alicia. I just got my nails done yesterday. Thank you. They're really cool. They have that like cool little effect. Sorry for TikTok if y'all can't see that good, but yeah, I was really happy. But again, when we give ourselves credit for the lessons that we've gone through and that we've learned, we stop chasing that like perfectionism, right? Like perfection, and we start to trust in our process. Okay. So part 3, I want to share how using reflection can help you move forward, right? So using reflection to move forward is part 3. And again, reflection is powerful because it creates awareness. So when we're aware of things, now we can't say, oh, we didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that. That's why I didn't do it. No, we can't use that excuse no more. So reflection is powerful because it creates awareness, and awareness creates direction. So once we have that awareness, now we know what direction we need to go to, right? If you're living, your life super busy and, you're tackling things that you've gone through, you're tackling obstacles as you go, but you never pause to really reflect, sometimes you're going to get stuck in that cycle where that same issue is going to come right back around because you didn't actually fix it. You put a Band-Aid on top of it, right? So again, using reflection, it creates that awareness. It creates that ability for you to see, oh yeah, like this is what's going on and this is what I need to do to move forward, right? So you can't move with intention if you haven't paused to understand where you're moving from. Thank you, Mama, for sharing the live. So once you look back on your habits, your choices, and your patterns, you can start to see what's actually worked for you, what has drained you, because that's very important, what has energized you, what needs to be released from your life, and then what needs more attention, right? So whenever you're going through a situation or whenever you have a decision that you need to make that you feel like you need reflection, you can always go through those questions and ask yourself, what has worked for me before? Does this drain me? Does this feel like it'll energize me? What needs to be released and what needs more attention? And then from there, the goal is simple. You choose one insight and you turn it into one action for that week, right? Or for that day or for that decision. Elizabeth said, I have learned that the journey is fun, then getting there is just the prize. Yes, I love that. And sometimes the journey is not fun. So I'm going to add that too, because sometimes the journey is not fun, but it's needed, right? Okay. So I want to give you guys some examples of using reflection to move forward, right? So for example, let's say that I had a realization that I thrive when I have structure, right? And this is actually true for myself. I realize that I do thrive when I have some sort of structure in my day. So that can look like creating a simple morning or evening routine. So for me, I have a routine every night of right before bed, what I do. So of course, brush your teeth, cool. But I have my music that I play. Well, actually first I do Duolingo because that's like the best time of the day for me to do Duolingo. Yeah, anyways. So I'll do like 15 minutes of Duolingo. And then I'll put my music on, which is like it's really calming, relaxing music that's really good for bed because I do have a hard time falling asleep. And then I play a little game that's really simple that does not need my attention. And next thing I know, I'm dozing off on the game and I'll put my phone down, go to bed. So that's what's worked for me. But again, I realized that I do need a little bit of structure, especially at work. I'll have alarms that go off for certain meetings that I have. I'll have timers that go off for me to remember to finish a task. So that's something that I chose from like reviewing my patterns and things that I reflected on that I could improve upon. And that was one of them. Another example is I noticed I felt my best when I wasn't overloaded. I'm going to say that again because I know a lot of us go through this. I noticed I felt my best when I wasn't overloaded. How many of you guys are overloading yourselves? And you can comment any emoji you want. How many of you guys have overloaded yourself or feel overwhelmed? I've been there. So again, when you notice that mama said me, yup, yup. So when you realize that, or when you notice that you feel your best when you're not overloaded, set a boundary, right? Set a boundary that week. Or say no to one thing that week, right? Or another example is I realize I avoid tasks when I feel overwhelmed. That's me again. That's me again. So what you can do instead of avoiding the task altogether, you could just break up one task into smaller things and complete one of the parts, right? So let's say that I have to put away a basket of laundry. Well, how about I just put away the whites in that laundry basket, right? Or how about I put away 10 pieces of clothing from that basket, right? So it's like making one thing that seems like really big and really annoying that you don't want to do at that moment, breaking it up into smaller pieces so it doesn't feel as overwhelming, right? And again, I want to share with you this truth to me is that reflection without action keeps you stuck, right? It keeps you stuck in insight mode. Reflection with action creates momentum and it creates real change. So again, reflection usually requires action, because once you reflect, you have the awareness, right? You've come into the awareness of what you need to do. And from that awareness, we take it into action and we do something, right? So now that you've heard a little bit about what I've talked about, what's one small insight that you can act on this week? So what's something that you feel in your life that kind of resonated with what I've said, and something that you can act on this week? So for me, I'm going to continue. I need to continue doing my timers because it keeps me in check. So what's one small insight that you can act on this week? Okay. The last part that I have for you guys today, I wanted to give a little bit of a homework like I always do. Let's see. Mama said I need to start my accounting things for Sergio's business. Oh, yeah. Your favorite time of year. Love that. So, again, let's talk about the insights, right? Let's talk about being able to break things up into chunks. Is that possible with the accounting for his business, that you can set aside maybe one day every week, or maybe 1 hour, 2 hours a week, something that you can break it up into chunks so it doesn't feel so heavy, right? Okay, so every week I have homework. If you don't like the word homework, I apologize. We can call it, instead of homework, what's another word for homework, y'all? That doesn't sound so homeworky. Maybe mental strengthening. Thank you, Kayla. Teacher. We can always count on the teachers. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so the mental strengthening this week, we're going to call it the growth check-in, right? So let me know if this sounds like too much. But I'm going to say it first, and then we can kind of scale back if it's too much. But I want you to think about each night this week. Take 1 to 2 minutes each night, okay, to write down the following. What did I learn about myself today? That's it. I just want you to answer that question once, maybe right before bed. Whenever you feel like in that day, you have that time. So each night this week, I want you to take 1 to 2 minutes, super small amount of time. Don't overthink it. You can do this on your phone. You can do this on your journal at home. You can do this on a notebook, anywhere. But just ask yourself, what did I learn about myself today? So maybe that day, you were super tired and you didn't want to exercise. So maybe what you learned that day is that you needed rest, right? So that's just an example. But by Sunday, next Sunday, you'll have a little mini timeline of your growth, right? A reminder that progress is always happening, even in those quiet moments, right? So the purpose of this is just to see where you are growing each day. So whether that's you reminding yourself that you needed rest, whether it's reminding yourself that you needed a little bit of structure, whether it's reminding yourself that you needed to just have time with your loved ones, right? So anything like that, whatever you did that you learned about yourself that day, just write it down. Okay, so before I close, I would love to see you drop one word that describes what this season of life has been teaching you. So what has this season of life been teaching you? And just share it in one word. For me, it's reflection. This is why I did this. Being able to reflect and like have clarity. Mama said grace. I love that. Grace is so important, especially giving ourselves grace. Because sometimes it's so easy to give other people grace. But then when we do it for them, but we don't do it for ourselves, it's tricky. So I love that. Anyone else? One word that describes what this season of life has been teaching you. Patience. Yes. Ooh, girl, I don't think I learned that yet. I'm still learning that. But you know what? It's okay to admit that we still have room for growth. Yes. Don't judge me. But I love that, Chi-Chi. Okay. Now, before I go, I want to remind you that reflection is how you turn your past into wisdom and your present into purpose, right? Every insight that you have, every pause that you have, even like the little small realizations that we have, all of these things add up. You're not starting over, you're starting just to get wiser, right? So I don't want you to punish yourself. I don't want you to guilt yourself. I just want you to be open, love yourself, and I want you to use these small little lessons, use these small little wins as a way of saying, wow, like I do have power, right? So I want to remind you that I will be going live every week this month. I am planning on going live every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So next week, we're going to be diving into practicing gratitude for growth, right? So similar to how we talked about reflection, I want to talk about gratitude next week. The kind of gratitude that doesn't ignore the hard stuff, but it helps us see your strength, right? And the support that we have that's already around us every day. So even the smallest moments of thankfulness can shift our mindset and can help us feel grounded, even when things might not feel grounded, right? So if you've been feeling overwhelmed or if you've been feeling stuck, next week is going to be really good. It's going to feel like a breath of fresh air. It's going to feel really light. So I invite you to join me next Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be live on YouTube and on TikTok. So I hope to see you guys then. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend and a beautiful week this week. Thank you guys so much for coming. I appreciate your support. I appreciate sharing my live, liking it, and all that good stuff. So thank you so much. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you, Mama. Love you too. Thank you, KK. Thank you, Chi-Chi. Love you guys. I love you guys. Have a wonderful weekend.